my extraordinary partner, Ronnie, who's always BTS behind the scenes, and an electronic dance music DJ. I have been unwell. Thank you so much for everyone who sent DMs, messages, checking on my health, whatnot. It sucks ass. So I'm monologuing. For those who do not know, I even put it in the title. I have severe ADHD. So we are going to be jumping topics like a grasshopper. So if you take notations and understand if he's in the sentence pre, I wish you well. And always, let's see if we can get this lighting any better. Probably not. Who knows? Maybe. I might fall. That would be funny if I did. All right, we can't. Great. Actually, you know what? I can sit down. Perfect. Even better. So, like I was saying, severe ADHD, let's dive right in. So, the Federal Reserve will be hiking interest rates. I'm going to project a 0.25 basis hike. And so, what this means, and I'm going to give you guys the best example possible, which is the trolls. I love trolls. I honestly find trolls to be such a necessity in relation to my personal ecosystem, regardless of music or finance. I find them super entertaining. And if you are a troll, thank you so much, because the amount of sexual perversion we see on the internet is a very, very, very nice, lighthearted thing. Because let me say this, no one has ever spoken worse to me than me. The stuff that I have said to myself about me to me in my head, none of you can match that. So as I try to still fix angles and whatnot, I appreciate you trolls. With that said, let's talk about the Federal Reserve rate hikes and how that may affect you. And I cannot think of a better example than trolls. So trolls can make fun of my crow's feet because, I don't have Botox or filler. So, of course, wrinkles. So let's say that I've got 10 wrinkles here and 10 wrinkles here. And the Fed hikes rates 0.25 basis points. The Ides of March are upon us. That's not going to hurt my wrinkles overnight. However, if you have a credit card that has a 10% APR, a Fed Reserve rate hike of 0.25, pending on the bank in which you borrow from and how badly they want to fuck you over, could actually take 10 and make it 20. So you could be seeing a credit card statement that went from 10 basis points or 10 APR, 10% APR, to 20%, to 30%, to 40%. So consider my crow's feet can be fixed with Botox. Your credit card cannot. So I haven't gotten my Botox. However, if I wanted to, that would fix it. In this case, you want to be proactive versus reactive. Does that make sense? Are we all tracking with me? We're if you have a mortgage, an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage, what this can do is, again, if I have 10 forehead wrinkles, I can be reactive and probably take a little bit of time and get whatever you get right here, and they'll go away. However, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, your 10 to 20% a month payment can immediately go to whatever the bank fucking feels like. I did a former video on discount rates where the Federal Reserve first has to hike preferred banks for borrowing costs. The more expensive the banks borrow, the more they decide to fuck you over at their own will. So if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, unlike my wrinkles you make fun of, your mortgage will go from 10% to potentially 20 to 30 to 40. And caveat, again, like I said, my wrinkles we can get rid of and maybe take some time. Your adjustable rate mortgage has nada once those rate hikes began in the Ides of March. I'm going to say about March 9th. Sounds correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, should have read the directions before we showed it to the party, and also learned about the financial crisis from 2008. Speaking of which, I believe World War III has already been fought and won. And for everyone who keeps blaming Klaus Schwab, just stop it, okay? The guy invented very much are viable, doable, and work. However, I do believe World War III has already been fought and won, and that would be the China Russia de-dollarization project that began in 2014. The 38 amendments they kept renewing every 3 years. Because guess the fuck what, people? The USA GDP to debt ratio, and I'll do a whole nother video on that. Because again, like I said, I'm not feeling well. Everyone thought I died or hurt myself. I'm always hurting myself unintentionally. But Japan is number one debt to GDP ratio. The United States is 12. You all, we suck ass as a nation. Steve Jobs to no jobs. We're purging 200,000 jobs a week plus, meaning every Thursday, the unemployment first time filers come out. And we're still 200 and something thousand. This has gone on for over 18 months plus. So Steve Jobs to no jobs. I do not believe the statistics that just came out that apparently the unemployment rate is now magically at 3.8. I'm very good with math, data, and numbers because I'm a weirdo and I'm a geek and I have no idea how magic math works in relation to monetary policy, but such is life. But I want to also, again, shift back to the China-Russia situation, the digital yuan, especially when sanctions, let me put it together. I've never been a fan of sanctions because I was a millennial. I always saw the destruction that they caused countries, and I've worked with refugees, Anama, Karabia, Batmanna, Asalam, al Kil, Ana Essaad, Syrians, Iraqis, Libyans, Palestinians. I love everyone, but be that as it may, I've never liked sanctions. Now, in December of 2021, China stockpiled the world's grain supply. I didn't even know that was possible. You could do that, but they did it back in December of 21. However, before that, about August, China's property market started going kaput. Evergrande, Cynic, Fantasia, etc. But really Evergrande. And the reason Evergrande's a big fucking deal is because the bank, UBS, which is Swiss, and also BlackRock, a private equity fund, no animosity towards Mr. Finkler. Sorry, I'm very terrible at pronunciation of names. However, that is just the truth. And what is also the truth is the holder of Russian bonds is also UBS and BlackRock. And I'd never heard of counter sanctions until Russia said, we're not paying our debt back. So I can only think that if we have the largest property developer in the world defaulting debt in dollars, okay? Track it with me. Largest property developer in the world defaulting debt with dollars, followed with Russia, who already planned to get around sanctions, who's already opening bank accounts in China and has the fourth largest reserve in the world with only 16.1% of their reserve at the time being dollars. And with triangular arbitrage, do we think this is convenience? Convenience? Not convenience. What's the word I'm looking for? Coincidence. I told you all I was unwell. Sorry. COVID brain, lupus, fog, and ADHD. There we go. Coincidental, huh? So we got Russia saying, we're not paying your debt back. And we have Evergrande, the second largest property developer, saying, bondholders, we're not paying your debt back. So what does that do to that dollar? I'm going to guess it devalues it. I'm going to just take a guess. Could be completely wrong. Leave your thoughts in the C section below. What do you think that does to our dollar? And do you think that's just a coincidence? I always say coincidence is God's way of showing existence. And this time I would have to say coincidence is Satan's way of revealing himself. However, I mean, in many ways, shapes, and forms, particularly greed in the form of money. However, USA, are we going to just allow this and clap? Because aside from the grain stockpiling, and again, like I said, haven't taken my medicine, don't feel well. We're going back to China grain now. Ukraine, it turns out, is one of the largest grain suppliers and exporters. So round of applause for the Ukraine. Bless you. Bless all of you. Sincerely. I mean that. Whatever any one of my fans needs, I'm there. However, I find it interesting that China knew to stockpile the shit out of grain by 2021. That is very interesting to me. And I do find it interesting. Hungary, the country neighboring the Ukraine, has said, fuck no, we're not exporting our grain. I didn't know that these were the grain exporters. Coal is another commodity that's gone shoom because of this. So ironically, people, this is going to sound terrible what I'm going to say, and I'm going to just put a trigger warning because it's going to hurt people's feelings. I understand why it would hurt people's feelings. Again, as someone who worked for USAID, for UNHCR under Antonio Guterres before he had full UN, war sucks, but war makes people a fuck ton of money. It just does. And I might be the first person to say this. I mean, they even have something called war bonds. Fact check the fuck out of me and get back to me. But coal has become a hot commodity. And I did want to bring up cancel culture while we're on the China Russia thing. Let me know, and I'll do a deep dive when I'm feeling better. But cancel culture, can we stop, please? Unless it's something that will benefit everybody. It's so trite, and something banned essentially from Russia for his opposition. And Stoli's vodka, which is great vodka, love it, is being canceled and having to be rebranded, even though it's under an equity fund, similar to Bernard Arnault, the head of Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy out of France, which has Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, Dior, Fenty Beauty, and Belvedere, and a fuck ton of other commodities and corporations. I would argue that Bernard Arnault's probably one of my favorite businessmen in the world when it comes to holding companies, and I think he stewarded his inherited money very, very well, and round of applause for him too. Good job, bud. So yes, Fed Reserve hiking rates will affect your adjustable rate mortgage. I wanted to circle back around again. Housing. Did you read it? Did you read it? Did you read what happens if you miss your mortgage? Because a lot of people don't know what's called an acceleration clause. If you missed one payment of a mortgage and you're not locked into something like mortgage forbearance, I don't even know if they're doing that anymore. Something else more than driving up consumer debt and corporate debt and then hiking interest rates to create mass mayhem. Sounds like a lot of fun. It does. And it's a very good strategy for a wealth transfer. It just fucking is. Nothing personal, strictly finance. However, an acceleration clause, like I said, my Botox would help my wrinkles. If I get wrinkles and I have wrinkles, clearly the Botox will get rid of it. You can't just get rid of an acceleration clause. You miss one mortgage payment, the banks have the right to do whatever the fuck they want with your house. So they can come take it, they can raise prices on it, they can demand you pay a exorbitant, if that's a word, sure, I just made that up, amount of fees. I think it's a word, but just in case. And I am very concerned people don't know about adjustable rates. They don't know that their APR on their credit cards. 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 saved up. 80% of Americans allegedly live paycheck to paycheck. I'm not sure how this is going to fare well. Now, I will say I did predict oil to go above $100. I would say my prediction was what went always gone on, at least if you're a millennial, since I've been alive. And just in 2015, no one talked about how Salih, the head of North Yemen, invaded the south and to AD Iranian funded backed militia, North Yemen, the Houthis, have really tried to make war and, in essence, cause a lot of harm towards the people of Yemen. And regardless of politics, I love humans. However, no one wants to talk about how Salih ended up coming to America, chilling, because for some reason the dictators come to America. For example, the dictator of Venezuela was talking about how he loves the salsa dancing in the Miami, Havana, and he goes to Louisiana. You guys go watch this. There's their David Rubenstein interview with the dictator from Venezuela. I was like, I love America. No one loves America more than I do. I like to go salsa dancing. And I'm like, This is interesting. Okay. All right. So the people of Venezuela, we are hosting. That just was so confusing, but the interview was so sincere. He was so offended when they said, "So you hate America?" He's like, "No, I love America." And then he literally talks about just kind of, what is it called when you drive through places? I don't know. I guess because he's like sanctioned and can't take a plane. I guess he's like road tripping throughout America. But literally, this guy knows America better than I do. Kind of frightening to think about. However, Salih ended up going back to Yemen and the Houthis. The Persian people are wonderful. And as Joe Biden said in the address, the State of the Union address, I don't think he meant to say it. Granted, this statement is true. He said something about tanks can circle Kiev, and the people of Iran will never ever let so and so's dictatorship, etc., affect them. And I'm thinking, well, no shit, they won't. They have the fucking Ayatollah, and then you have Nasrallah and Lebanon of Hezbollah, but regardless, the Persian people are resilient. So I agree with that statement. I think he meant Ukrainian, not Iranian. But if he did mean Iranian, I am with the Iranian people. As someone who's an Israeli American, identifies as so, I really hope for peace in the East. I do think that because of the China, thank you. I think because of the China Russia mega collab, we'll just call it a collab, financial collab. The four largest banks in the world are in China, people. Four largest banks. And then in 2021 in July, Citigroup, which by the way has 10, I would say 10 billion in relation to Russian investments. They have Citigroup, Goldman, and JP Morgan have different banking activity abilities in China. But China has the four largest banks in the world. The digital yuan is an option. And Russia is right there. China also has a pipeline they had approved a couple years back with Russia. So sanctions, do they work? In my opinion, they hurt the people, and I don't ever want to hurt people that are innocent at all. That is never my intent. I hope people will call me out on it if I ever do, if I say something incorrect, or if I say something that's genuinely hurting someone. I will never be the person who apologizes for telling the truth. But think about what I said about Evergrande devaluing our dollar, along with I forgot to say pension funds and 401ks. I wonder how many people have the second largest property developer in China, and we're not predicting the economy to collapse. I'll tell you what, George Soros was fucking right. He put Ray Dalio in his place, and I know that we might disagree. I might not agree with him on anything except for macroeconomics. And in this case, George Soros was absolutely correct and brilliant. And I urge all of you to read his writings. Put your feelings aside. Finance does not give a fuck about feelings. You have finance, then you have feelings. Keep them separate. You will learn so much. The man knows what he's talking about. China is actually terrified of that man collapsing his currency. But I do think that we have something to look into. When Russia's saying, I'm not going to pay the $300 billion plus debt back, that's about what they are in the money markets. And then you have the Evergrande and the billions, trillions, and that property, all of China's property market is kind of like 2008, except it's like more curated and planned and really well executed, almost intentional. But do your research, drop it in the C section, let me know. Ana habag shatim te amo, bisu besu bachi. I love you all. God bless. Prep for rate hikes, because remember, they are not as easy to fix as the wrinkles that all of you make fun of on my face.